everyone and welcome to a video that a lot of you have requested. We are gonna have a look at Ryze, the short, the cinematic, it's called Ryze Call of Power. And I'm gonna talk about exactly what is happening there because we know this cinematic, or this short, is based on the lore. I'm not gonna prolong it, let's go right into it because we already know this video will be roughly 30 minutes long. Jesus, and I don't wanna prolong it, so let's go. I'm gonna assume, by the way, that you already know what the video is about. If you don't, go and watch the video right now. Go and watch Ryze Call of Power because I will stop the video when something interesting happens and I will just, go through the entire cinematic shot by shot. So, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it now while we wait. Okay, we're done waiting, let's go.
There's a great power in this world. Ancient and forgotten.
First shot, I just wanna clear something out. This rune, unless it gets confirmed that it is not the rune that Ryze holds in his, in his splash art or in his login theme, this rune is supposed to be the exact same rune. It is just a little bit of a different color, and that's for cinematic reasons. If you have a rune that is black and red, it seems far more evil than if he had the grayish yellow that he has in his splash art. So unless it gets disproven, this is the exact same rune, or I should say a shard of a world rune. It's not really a world rune. It appears, as far as we know, that the world runes are massive stones of power that gives you that give you massive magic energies flowing through your body, but these seem to be only shards of those runes. So just in case I call it the wrong name, I'm sorry. That's why I wanted to explain it. So, first of all, there's a shot. We know this is from Demacia because I will later go onto the map because the map got updated as well. We know this is in Demacia, and a couple of interesting things that I can talk about here. First of all, the trees have leaves. You can notice that all of the trees around here are alive. And of course, we are talking about petricite trees. Petricite, in case you don't know, is this... it's a material that the Demacians use to build their, buildings, their armor, their swords, their weapons, everything they build out of petricite, because petricite has the ability to absorb and deny magic. And petricite on its own is actually made of three components. You have the bark of the petricite trees, okay? It is the bark, not the wood. Then you combine it with limestone and then with ashes. We don't specifically know what kind of ashes. We just know it's petricite, it's the bark of the trees, it's limestone, and it is ashes. If you combine these three, you get petricite, the real material, and then you can use that for anything that you want to have, that you want to give the special power to deny magic. So, with that said, because we know that petricite absorbs magic, it kinda answers the question why these trees would be still alive, because later in the cinematic we learn that the runes, that Ryze hides them in a vault beneath the petricite forest. And it seems like the roots of these trees are absorbing the magic of those runes, and that's why these trees can stay alive, and that's why they have leaves. It's the exact same thing as why Galio is alive. Galio is alive because he absorbs magic, because he is from petricite, and that's how he lives. It's the exact same with the trees. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get to that scene. But that was the first thing, that, these trees are alive. The second thing, if you look around, you can notice that not all of the trees were cut down for wood. Most of them have their bark missing. For example, here you can see that this tree already has, massive chunk of bark missing. That's because the Demacians are harvesting the bark of these trees for petricite. Now Ryze talks about
transformed fields of bare stone.
What the runes do. You can see bark missing.
Wonders of life and magic.
Awesome scale, or you can really see the scale of those trees, compared to Ryze. But
it carved mountains.
There's really one important thing to look at. If you look at Ryze, you can see that he's slumbering. It looks like he's tired. This could be for two reasons. Number one, this could be pointing at the fact that, you know, he is carrying the burden of hiding the world runes, because that he is essentially saving humanity from itself. So it is a massive burden, and he's looking, it is part of his story that he's looking for another person that would take on his burden. So that's one reason why he could look the way he does. But he's also in a petrified forest, and he's a mage. So of course, everything would feel heavy for him, because from the story of Lux, we know that whenever a mage is kind of exposed to petricide, they feel heavy. It feels like, you know, they are tired. They really feel like the petricide is like draining away all the energy they have. And Ryze, being this powerful mage who knows nothing but magic, him standing in the middle of a petricide forest, it must feel awful for him. And that's why you can see that his movement is really heavy. In this shot right now, you can definitely see it.
Drained oceans.
You can just feel it.
And burned skies.
So now we're getting into the vault, into a hidden vault, by the way. It's a vault beneath the petricide trees. By the way, because it was a forgotten vault, Ryze did not make it. Ryze only found this place, which means that someone else before Ryze had to build this place. Just remember that. You can see the ruins of the people that were there before. Now we have a beautiful shot. Okay, we need to talk about this. So, in this shot, we have two kind of people. We have like, I'm gonna assume these are two kings, two nations, you know, looking up at a tree, and that tree, you can see there's a shard of a world rune, you know, on top of it. So I'm gonna assume that this is the tree where Ryze is standing right now. And if you have a look at the two nations, or I'm gonna assume there are two nations. It is possible that it is just one nation, and you know there are two sides of those. Nothing confirmed there on that, but you have soldiers on one side, right? Soldiers, like massive plated armor, swords, spears, and on the other side you have kind of like mage-ish, like elvish kind of people. You have a what seems to be a witch with a staff. You have, you know, another person who is like freaking leaf, I guess. So this is like a contrast between warriors and those who maybe believe in nature and like more mage-ish. And this of course points at the rune wars, where you had people who really fought against magic, and then you had people who kind of, you know, took magic for what it is and they tried to use it. So this really is a beautiful contrast of what the rune wars really were. As to what this rune is doing in up on the tree, we are not entirely sure. It could be just, you know, a picture that kind of shows that this tree holds the shards of the world rune. That could be why there are little holes, you know, in the roots of that tree. Maybe this nation actually built the tree, or, you know, made it grow and carved it into the vault. Maybe it was this nation, but we don't have a lot of information on this. All we know is that runes are the source of magic, source of all magic on Runeterra, and we know that runes kind of spread life around Runeterra, so that's why it's on a tree.
It only grew stronger.
Again, it's black and red for the evil sign. He's gonna focus.
Away, waiting to be found.
Beautiful transition. Amazing transition. Alright. So he's now in the vault.
Stronger it grows.
Beneath the Demacian lands in the Petrified Forest. These are the roots of the trees that we saw above. And you know how at the end of the cinematic people are calling like, hey, oh my god, he only has 4 runes while there are 5 in the world. No. There is at least 9 that we know about. At least 9. We know that Ryze himself had encountered at least 6. So he doesn't have 4, at least 6 runes he had encountered. And you can also see that while we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's gonna be 5, you know, like behind this shot, there are more places in the background. So you can already see that there are more runes than what people think. You can see again, you know, his heavy burden and, you know, the petricide kind of dampening his movement.
Others seek to claim this power. for strength. Balance.
There we go, just like Lord of the Rings. From the story, it seems, so far, there's no confirmation on it, but it seems that the runes want to be wielded, right? So when someone picks up a rune, the rune itself kind of calls to the wielder and it wants to be wielded, it wants to be absorbed, or, you know, it just wants to be released, rather. And that's why, for example, when Ryze is holding it right now, he's kind of hesitating because the rune is tempting him to hold on to it and to really see what power it holds. That's why there will be a flashback back to what probably this rune has caused before. But in Ryze's comic, there was a scene where his female, you know, companion, she held onto the rune and she didn't see destruction or power because that wasn't really her desire. It seems like the rune is kind of playing on the desires of the wielder. So when she held onto the rune, she saw her dead sons being revived and she realized that maybe with the power of the rune, she can bring back her sons. And Ryze, he told her that yes, she will be able to bring them back, but not the way she thinks, you know, they will be brought back. Which he kind of points back at the Blessed Isles being ruined, but that's another thing. Just wanted to point it out. So this is a flashback. We know this is from the past. However, this may not be from his bio, because in his bio there's a scene where first of all, he is with his Master Tyrus, and you know Master Tyrus isn't here, and but he doesn't have the scroll on his back. So either this was before he became, you know, not the wielder of the runes, but you know, the person who hides the runes. Either it was before that, which means that's why he doesn't have the scroll on his back yet, which means there still should be Tyrus somewhere around him. Or this is a flashback from the future and the rune is kind of showing him what he could do with the rune. And therefore, he doesn't have the scroll on his back because he doesn't need it, because he's already wielding the runes, right? Either way, in his bio, the story mentions that the rune kind of gets unleashed and it destroys massive portion of the land, like massive whole, you know, is just devoured by the magic. So there should be a crater, which it really isn't here yet, unless, you know, the rune is still being unleashed. But also there should be an ocean in the background, and that ocean should be rushing in. So on the map, I will show you in a second, on the map somewhere there should be a crater filled with an ocean, because that's what that rune has caused, and it doesn't seem to be this scene exactly. But you can see that this was likely somewhere between maybe around Noxus, because you have these really edgy buildings. You know, I say edgy, they really are, because, you know, they have like sharp edges and stuff. But you can also see like little domes every now and then. There's one, there's also one up here, I believe. That shot is gone, there's one here. And domes are very Demacian, there's one here as well. So it may be somewhere in between Noxus and Demacia. But, you know, the map shows otherwise. I'll show you later.
I was weak then. Naive.
There's one more dome down here, also very Demacian. And yeah, that's the one from before.
So I vowed. Never again.
Okay, so now we have shots from all over Runeterra. This shot specifically with Misfortune. This is not directly tied to a world rune. This shot is from when Ryze was seeking a safe passage from Bilgewater, and so I'm gonna assume that because Misfortune at the time was, you know, a woman of power, I'm assuming this is after the Burning Tides, then, you know, she would give Ryze safe passage from Bilgewater, but she ran into another captain, and, you know, this scene suddenly, you know, unleashed. So it is not directly tied to a world rune. There is no world rune around here, but unless he is already carrying one. But, you know, it is a scene from his adventures. Now we're getting into the Great Sigh. I believe it is the Great Sigh, because we all see Nasus. By the way, this Guardian, this is something we have never seen before. This is a Guardian that protected the ancient vaults in Shurima, in the Great Sigh. And it's just amazing because we have never seen anything like this. The only protector that we have ever encountered in the entire lore of Shurima was the serpent statue that bit Cassiopeia. So now we kind of see what kind of mechanisms the Shurimans use to protect their vaults and, you know, ancient tombs. Of course, we see Nasus, but in this shot specifically, you can see that Nasus is buying time to for Ryze. You'll see that in a second. Ryze will just, you know, run into the ancient tomb while Nasus holds back the protector. This is, and we can assume it is because inside this ancient tomb, that's where the runestone is, and that's where Ryze, you know, is running so that he can get the runestone before Brand. Also important to note that because you can see that everything is in ruins, this shot happened after Azir was already dead, and it is before Azir brought back Shurima. So it is still within the window that I called out in our age video. It is still between the 300 and 250 years. So maybe my guess of Ryze's age was actually accurate. Now we're jumping into the Karana Monastery. This is where Lee Sin and Udyr did all their meditating. And the bandits, you see, these guys, hold on, these guys are not Noxians. They are the Brotherhood of Navarre. This is a brotherhood that really believes in the original way of Ionia. So the original way of Ionia, or the ideology of Ionia, is that if something awful is happening, usually if you leave things be and if you leave things to just flow, balance will occur at some point in time. So when Noxus invaded Ionia, a lot of people still believed in this ideology, and they believed that if they just let things go and if they let things be, over time, nature will find balance and everything will be fine in the end. So then you have the other group of people that follow Irelia, because when the final great and final stand at Navarre happened, Irelia cut off the hand of Swain, and she kind of started the rebellion where people finally started fighting back the Noxians. And of course, because this is not the ideal way that Ionians dealt with pretty much anything in the world, not everyone was satisfied that Irelia suddenly started fighting back while, you know, everyone else should be really just waiting it out. So that's where the Brotherhood of Navarre comes in, because the Brotherhood of Navarre is really against everything that Irelia does. Even though Irelia has pretty much freed Ionia from the Noxians, this Brotherhood still believes that Irelia isn't really the leader they should have, and they really shouldn't have a leader that is aggressive against other people. So, you know, these are semi-bad guys. They are more like a political side in Ionia. But the more important thing is that you can notice they are not dancing. Maybe that's a possible rework of an ability of Sona. So you can see Sona using her healing beam, because earlier Ryze was, you know, he was stabbed with a dagger, which means Sona shouldn't have mana anymore. We know how her healing works. So that's that shot. Now we're getting into Freljord with the trolls. Nothing really important here. Some people say that the necklace that Trundle wears here, that's a shard of a world rune. I don't think so, because it would be definitely glowing, and if Trundle had a world rune, holy crap would he be powerful. All he has is Bone Shiver. You can see that he is still wielding Bone Shiver. And yeah, this shot is described on the map that as Ryze is traveling around the world, he can't say, or he can't tell anyone what he's really doing. It's a massive secret that he has to keep for himself. So when he's actually looking for the runes, and he can't tell anyone that he's looking for them, and that's why he gets into these kinds of conditions when he's talking to the natives. So,
few can resist the call of power.
Back to this rune. There's gonna be a massive twist, but okay, I'll try to explain it as best I can. This is still a flashback from how he got the rune that he was wielding at the beginning of this short, or you know, cinematic. You can see the rune is already standing on a pedestal, which means that someone put it there, right? The pedestal pretty much serves as like, you know, the resting place of the rune. And long and behold, it's a frozen watcher. Now, before people start screaming, oh no, Riot confirmed it's not a real watcher. No, it's not. This is not a watcher, this is a frozen watcher, and this will be a hard thing for me to describe. But, well, we know that watchers are the real masters of the void. I'll try to get a better shot of him, of the watcher. There we go. We know that the watchers are the real masters of the void. But we also know that there is something called the frozen watchers. And the frozen watchers are called frozen watchers because the Iceborn named them like this, alright? While the Iceborn have never encountered the real watchers. So, the reason why we have watchers and then the frozen watchers is because the watchers, the void watchers, no one on Runeterra calls them that. We know they are watchers because Riot called them the watchers. But the frozen watchers are called frozen watchers because the Iceborn gave them that name. And obviously that's because they look like a freaking eye. So, the difference between this and the real watcher is that this is just a spawn. It is similar to a Voidborn. This was confirmed by... Was it Graham McNeil? No, it was it? I don't know, damn it. One of the big writers at Riot, they confirmed that this frozen watcher is similar to a Voidborn, as in it is a spawn of the watchers. And here comes my theory, where I believe that we never got confirmed what the real watchers actually look like. So maybe they don't look like Vel'Koz, and maybe they don't look like giant freaking eyes. What if the watchers are massive brains? It's like a hive mind. And these watchers are spawning these little eyes, and these eyes scout out the areas, and that's where they open the rifts. So, while the watchers may not have eyes, they are called the watchers because they spawn the little eyes that we know as the frozen watchers, and they actually watch for them, right? So, this is not a real watcher, it is a frozen watcher, therefore it is the spawn. It is one of the spawns of whatever the great void can, you know, spawn. So you can see all these tentacles that you can see on Ryze's splash art, and you can see it in his login screen. That's the exact scene. So the watcher, or the frozen watcher is trying to corrupt him, as you can see. Ryze will not have it. And also notice that the watcher the entire time, if I go back, you can see that the watcher is behind an ice wall, which means someone sealed the watcher there, or the frozen watcher. Watch. It is still behind a wall of ice. Only the tentacles can get through. And it is there the entire time, so it is a seal that the frozen watcher can't break. It is still behind the ice, the frozen watcher still can't get out. You can see it is trying to corrupt Ryze through void magic because, you know, it's purpley, but Ryze is gonna get Super Saiyan. He blows up the frozen watcher using everything he has, and the ice is still there. So, the theory behind this is that because we know that Ryze was the one who was trying to hide the runes all around Runeterra, but people kind of started finding them again, so that now he is gathering them and he's trying to hide them the second time somewhere where it is safer. It is possible that it was either Ryze, or it was his master Tyrus, or it was one of the other mages who are trying to hide the powerful artifacts. One of the guides made this pedestal, put the rune there, and sealed the watcher behind it so it would protect the rune from anyone who wouldn't be able to beat it. So it is possible that the reason why this frozen watcher was sealed here, and I'll show you on the map that it is totally far away from the Howling Abyss. This is not in the Howling Abyss, this is far further north. The reason why one lonely frozen watcher was all the way here is because someone had to seal it here. And the reason why someone would seal it here would be to protect the rune. So it dies. He took the magic, therefore, you know, things are crumbling. Or, you know, not yet, but you'll see. Again, the rune will tempt him.
I hold too much power.
Again, a flashback of the power. And whoop, there it goes. Now, you can see there will be a little whoop of magic. That is what the Petricite can do. The Petricite dampens the magic. You'll see how it immediately absorbs the magic. And because these are the roots of the trees above, this is where the magic kinda gets transferred to the trees. Poof. There it is.
Others say I can't be trusted.
Now, there's an... I've never seen a single Avengers movie successfully. And I'm proud.
The only power I truly have is the strength to let it go.
But there you go. So, there is a shot where he has 4 runes, but there are 5 pedestals. I'm gonna say right now that we actually know about more runes than those that are shown here. So we know the origins of this rune. That's the one he got from Freljord right now. So we know this one. We also know the green one. Unless, by the way, what is also possible that could be happening here is that because we know that these are only shards of the world runes, it is possible that they are in this, you know, in this sequence of 5 pillars, because if you have all the shards, you create a world rune. And it is possible that there are multiple, you know, complete world runes, because we know that one of the runes had totally different shape, and that one was shown in the comic. But you can see that all of these kind of have the same shape. So maybe these are shards of one world rune that when it gets completed, you know, its power gets probably magnified 1,000-fold. But we know the origins of this rune. We also know, and I'm just gonna assume that the comic where they got the green rune, it's gonna be this one. I'm just gonna assume, even though in the comic that rune looked different. It had totally different shape. So let's say we know this one, we know where this one came from. We then have 2 more runes. Now, here's the thing. If I go to Ryze's bio, we know that his master, Tyrus, already, when Ryze defeated his master, when his master got corrupted, he already held onto 2 runes. So the moment Ryze beat his master, that's when he should have 2 more runes on top of that. So let's imagine that maybe this rune and this rune are the 2 runes that he got from his master. Hold on, there is more. We also know that if we go to Ryze's short story, there is 1 more rune that he gets by killing his old friend who also got corrupted. Yago, by the way, one of my favorite Freljordian characters in League. He grabbed a world rune, or a shard of the rune, that had a warm orange glow. Now if we look here, there's not a single one that would have warm orange glow unless this one was the one from Freljord. But either way, we know that there's yet another rune that still should be somewhere in here. And hold on! If we go to Zoe's lore, if we find Zoe in Champions, we go for where's Zoe? If we go to Zoe and if we'll have a look at her color story, if we go all the way to the bottom, we see that even though, but Zoe actually calls it world rune. Ha, plot twist. It's not a shard, it's a world rune. But at the end of the story, we learned that wherever Zoe popped up, there was a big cataclysm, explosion happened, there was a crater, and that crater probably revealed a world rune. So hey, we know about another one. And it's just like, we know about far more runes than what Ryze or you know, what we can see in the cinematic. For example, another one, if I go for where is she? If I go for another character, and that's my theory. I will show you my theory that I don't know if I want to work on for a full video, but, and also we are getting for 30 minutes. I need to end this video. If we have a look at this, we can have a look at Shyvana, we have a look at runes. It is right here. Hold on, where was it? No. There it is. Those who studied the subject speak of ancient elemental runes split between dragon bloodlines, which means the reason why we have a fire dragon, we have a wind dragon, we have an earth dragon, water dragon, we have all the kinds of dragons, is because these dragon flights, or these dragon bloodlines, they held onto different elemental runes. And while they are not called world runes or the shards of world runes, we can assume that maybe back in the day when people wanted to protect the runes, it is possible that those first protectors, they were actually giving the runes to the dragons, because they believed that the dragons would be able to protect the runes. And maybe that's why dragons now wield elemental magic, because those different runes were, you know, filled with different kinds of magic. It's a theory, but it is definitely possible, right? Riot can now backtrack, and they can definitely use the world runes to empower the dragons. There are so many windows open for this, so they can definitely do that. But I will now quickly go to the map of Runeterra really swiftly, because the map of Runeterra was updated. There are the places that, you know, appeared in the comic. You can see them right there. That's the places from the comic. There are the new places from the new stories that got released about, you know, Kagan Road and Ryze, and there are all the places that appear in the cinematic. So I quickly want to point out some of them. For example, hold on, this one is Trundle. There, you know, we're gonna see where like the trolls are in the land, but you can see that the Frostguard Citadel and the place where the Holding Abyss is and the bridge is here. However, the Watcher we encountered was here. So while the bridge is sealing all the frozen Watchers here, there was one lowly Watcher in here. And we know that they like dig underground, and they have like some kind of maybe an underground network. It is still curious how one of the Watchers got sealed here, so it is possible that someone sealed it there to protect the World Rune. This is the place where the Demacian Vault is. You can see that is a forgotten vault, therefore someone else made the vault, okay? It wasn't Ryze who made it, he just found it. But you can see it is in Demacia. The flashback took place here. It could be from his story, because you can see a massive crater right here. Again, in the story, when the World Rune was unleashed, Ryze was standing on a hill, so it would make sense that it would be here. And he was watching how the oceans were rushing in, because the land was just deleted. So it's possible that, you know, all the land that was here was deleted, and that's how the ocean would rush in. It is possible that it was that place. The Great Sigh is right here, east of Shurima. That's where, you know, that's where they encountered the Guardian and they looked for the rune. And then, you know, there was a shootout with Misfortune. And the one last thing I want to mention is that in Ryze's story, and also there is the Monastery of Karana, by the way, where Sona is as well. One last thing I quickly want to mention is that Master Tyrus, which was Ryze's master, in his lore we learned that he was from a cult of people that were protecting and hiding powerful artifacts so that people wouldn't hold them. Because, you know, they would be dangerous in the wrong hands. And we know that they had a massive vault where they would hide all the powerful artifacts. We also know that Master Tyrus was from Helya. And we know that Helya was on the Shadow Isles. Because if you have a look at the Shadow Isles, and we look in here, it is Helya, the capital of the Blessed Isles. So it was in either, I believe it could be Callista's story, but in one of the stories it was described that when the Ruined King unleashed the magic that would end his life and the life of his wife, that magic got multiplied by all the powerful artifacts in those lands. We now know that those powerful artifacts were hidden there by the cult of people that were hiding world runes as well. So we know that it was because of the power of a world rune that the Shadow Isles got created through the ruination. And we also know that one of the people from the cult that was there and that was protecting the artifacts was none only but Thresh. Just want to point out a cool fact that it is possible that Master Tyrus, which was master of Ryze, he didn't have a connection to Thresh, but he knew about Thresh because Thresh was very well known because he was kind of masochistic and he was a mad warden, and later he got forgotten and suddenly no one knew that Thresh was even alive. But, you know, just a cool fact that there is a connection between them. But that's gonna be it for this video. Holy crap, we are getting near 35 minutes. No, I wanted this to be short, but let's be honest, there was a lot of lore facts in this video. So I'm sorry for this being long. I'll just end this video really quickly. So thank you everyone for being here. I hope you enjoy the map. Ryze is doing an insane work just updating it and, you know, putting everything on it. I hope you enjoy your summer because holy crap, it is insanely hot here. You can see by the way I look. And as always, thank you, come again.